Hi everyone, this is day 7 of our Rust adventure. This is Advent of Rust, and we're building a web API in Rust. Today we are going to do a bit of a refactoring, as well as testing our new routes that we've created yesterday. So let's dive into the code. So yeah, first, there's a very nice type in Rust, which is a result type, and we talked about it quite a bit. But there's also one alias for this type, which is in stdio. And by doing that, we can remove the second parameter. So by doing that, instead of having a result of type void and IO error, we can just use the stdio result, which is just an alias. So it's exactly the same stuff. So that's a quick refactoring. The second one that I wanted to cover today is the fact that we need to do a match and like print something and rethrow the error. So that might not be super convenient to do that. One cool Rust feature is the interrogation mark, so question mark. By doing this, you're saying that I know this is a result. Whether or not it's succeeding depends on the runtime. But if it's succeeding, then we can go to the next instruction, so which was going to be server.run.await. And if we're failing, well, we will bubble up the error. So since we're going to return a result here, the error inside this result statement will be bubbled up to the main. So by doing this, it's exactly the same stuff. So instead of matching and manually rethrowing the error, what we do here is using the question mark, which says, hey, if I have an error, just bubble it up to the main function. To do that, you need to make sure that the returning results of the caller method, the caller function of this method, is actually of the same result type. So here, stdir. So that's a cool refactoring. What we can do as well is maybe extract this logic into a separate file, because this should not belong to main. So let's remove this, create a new file. Let's say service.rs. We can paste it, and we can import our module here. So when we create a new module, you need to import it into the main from the main file. So now we can save it, and obviously we need to re-import everything. Fortunately, the IDE should allow you to do that very quickly. HTTP response as well. And that's it. That's great. So now in our main function, I can remove this. Pizza is not used anymore for now. There is no self anymore here. Bit of a cleanup. And this, we can import the get pizza, which has been exported to another file. And it's not server, is HTTP server. So cool. We don't need the result anymore. Actually, we need it. And as you can see in Rust, there is another cool feature. You can redefine variables. So here we can define HTTP server, but then we don't use it anymore. We use it to bind it, but we can reallocate the exact same result, because we don't need to bring it a new name, like how should I name this variable? We're still dealing with an HTTP server, so that's fine to reuse the same. Because at this point, this variable does not exist anymore, so that's fine to do that. You don't have to, but usually it's super convenient to do that. Last but not least, we need to make sure that this is still working. So obviously we can run it and do some curl. So I will allow connection. I will curl it, localhost, it's then pizza. So it's still working, but obviously as the code will get bigger and bigger, we don't do this kind of stuff manually anymore. So what we want to do is to actually write a unit test for it. So let's stop our server, go back to the service here. And remember, every test is in the same file of the test, the code test that you want to run. So we are going to reuse this config and module test in the service. This is here. And it's going to be a bit different because we need, we need to tell to our test that this is going to be asynchronous once again. So we have a nice feature provided by Actix, which is Actix web --test. And by doing that, we can use asynchronous in our tests. So let's say test pizza endpoint. First, I need to create my testing service. So let's say app equal to test create it's going to be init service. The app is going to be a new app. And we need to bind our get pizza service as well. So let me do this. So I've created my app. It's a new app with the service get pizza attached. Then I need a request. So let's create the request. It's going to be test request. I'm going to use the default. So default is you can think about like a default constructor. It's going to loop over every field of the test request. And if it's a string, it's going to be an empty string. If it's an int, it's going to be 0. So basically, instead of having to define every field, you just call default and it will autofill for you with a default value. Then we need to specify which URI you want to fetch. So I think it's /pizza. Let's have a look. Yeah, so get pizza. We need to fetch pizza. And finally, we want to make it as a request. So we want to transform this to a request. So cool, I have my application, I have my request, then I need to call my service with this request. So the response will be test call service. My service is app and my request is request. So obviously this is asynchronous, so don't forget to put the await keyword here. And since we may want to reuse the app in the future, we can't just move. So this is a complex thing in Rust, but you can't move a variable like that. You need to reference it with the %. This means that this application is still running, but I just want the reference to this application. So I just use this special card just to say, hey, I want the reference. So now I have my response. Finally, I want to assert that my response is actually 200. So status OK. If we have a look at the get pizza, it's returning OK. So let's make sure that this is the case. So I can do assert. I want my response to be first I need to await it, of course, because once again, it's fully asynchronous. So I want to get the status. And I want to make sure that this is a success status. So if I run it, cool. We know, make sure that the result is OK. Obviously, if I say like no content, for instance, and if I rerun the test, this is good. Oops. Oh yeah, no content is still a success actually. So maybe like internal server error, we can run it. And now it's obviously fading because if I look at the stack trace, it's fading. We're expecting a success, but it's fading to get the success. So obviously, let's say OK. And maybe to be sure that this is actually a 200 status code, we can add another section to say status as U16, for instance, and we can make sure that this is 200. Yeah, assert equal. That's my status is 200. So if I run it, this time it's going to be fine. And if I say no content, which is still a success, but not 200, if I run it, now it's going to fail because if we look at this, the status for no content is 204 and not 200. So yeah, one last thing we want to check is maybe as body. So to check the body, let's do this. We can read the body for the response. So once again, it's asynchronous. So you need to grab the body into a variable. So there is a convenient way to do that. This is into body. And finally, no. So yeah, congrats. That's it for day 7. We've now refactored a bit our code. So yeah, that's it for day 7. Congratulations. We've now have a valid HTTP endpoint, which is validated by a unit test. We've done some refactoring. We saw the question mark operator in Rust. So yeah, that's it for today, and see you tomorrow. Have a good day.